Hello and welcome to the new edition of the Mobilise Podcast. Today with me I've got the CEO Hamish White and Head of Product Mo Wahid to talk about the operators of the future. So I'll kick off the discussion. Hamish, you have been working with the market for a while now, quite a long time. And have you noticed any patterns, any trends where you think everything may be moving?
Yeah, I have been in the industry for a while and I have the grey hairs to prove it as well. But yeah, I mean, the telecoms industry is in a really interesting transition phase at the moment, I think. Like over the 25 odd years experience that I've had, we kind of went from the traditional network kind of led telco model, which was you're selling your data, text and voice and kind of leveraging the assets of the network as much as possible. And then we went through a phase of the wholesale model gaining a lot more traction with the MVNO, traditional MVNO model, but still kind of offering the same services, but maybe targeting niche segments. But now I feel like there's this new kind of trend appearing, somewhat new, but maybe over the last 18 months, 2 years or so, where to coin, or to use one of the phrases that I think we coined, which is embedded connectivity. So through technologies like eSIM, we're seeing adjacent brands with some kind of digital ecosystem, like fintechs or travel brands, actually embedding mobile connectivity within those service offerings. And it's creating a really interesting new wave of telcos that are coming into the market, but also turning on its head the traditional telco model too. So it feels like over the course of the next few years, we're going to see a real shift away from consumers engaging with one big telco brand, like here in the UK, let's say Vodafone or EE, away from one big telco brand that they stick with for 5, 10, 15 years or whatever it might be, to kind of maybe engaging with a multitude of different brands, whether it be for their travel services, and we've seen like eSIM, travel eSIM has gone absolutely ballistic over the last couple of years. But then, with eSIM as well, you can have multiple profiles on your device as well. So away from having this like one-to-one relationship with your telco to maybe having various different relationships with different telcos. So it's really interesting how the market's shifting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the same. I'll add to this from product/tech perspective.
He's
think
got less grey hair than me. I know this.
So it's shifting, and also you can tell we're working together in this. It's becoming more product-led rather than network-centric, or being very dependent on network or legacy systems, and now it's more agile, and you can see more modular techniques and API first design, digital first design, and with eSIM in, like, this is the feature or the entrance for an ecosystem. So as Hamish was explaining, this is also we can see on the super apps where you can log in into app, and then there is a whole new world, like you can see lifestyle features or streaming or travel or even fintech. So this is somehow where I see the operators going to. They have to adapt to the change, and they have to adopt the tech perspective and tech culture, being product-led rather than network-led, focusing on the user experience, because I think that the winner here would be the one who's offering the best user experience without frictions, and also not only this, like how much partnership, as you said, you can make, how modular is your system that it's flexible, you can adapt into new.
I got a question. I mean, that's absolutely right. I think it's more about being technically agile and flexible, maybe being more platform or software led as a service provider. But I mean, we've seen that in our own engagements with MNOs, big MNOs. I think it's quite clear that that's the way that the industry's going. But for various different reasons, the big MNOs struggle to kind of catch up, or to be able to change quick enough to be able to get themselves into a place where they can actually capture that opportunity. So what do you think, I mean, the question I would have is, what do you guys think the operators need to do in order to be able to maybe change their operating model in some way so that they can move quicker? to capitalize on these opportunities?
I think that's a very interesting question,
Yeah.
and sort of to build on what Mo has previously mentioned, with growing focus on the product, I feel that the connectivity itself isn't as hard to provide as it was 20, 30 years ago. These days, many companies, such as Revolut, for example, they can add an eSIM, again, as a super app, as a part of their offering, and it's a part of their product. And I feel that bigger operators, if you look at what they're doing now, they're moving away from focusing solely on connectivity, and instead they're becoming like sort of a value-added service provider. So you get yourself an internet subscription, you also get Netflix, Spotify, all of these other sort of add-on services. And I feel that this is the direction in which the bigger companies are moving, because again, it's much easier to acquire connectivity. The question is why should the customers stay or choose you when selecting their connectivity provider?
Totally. The thing I think in terms of like technical agility, one of the things that I think I find often day to day, occurring is it's really complex. I mean, what we do is really, really complex. Georgia, you're a really good example. I mean, some of the level of detail that you get into with, say for example, pluggable eSIM, for example, you're getting all the way down into a really specific kind of niche within the telecommunications industry, which is the what we call it, UICC chip kind of, and how the software interacts on that. But then when you step back and you go, does a mobile operator have the skill sets that it needs in order to be able to kind of innovate like that in the way that maybe we've been trying to innovate, seeing how difficult it is. So I think the intent is, let's be agile, let's push into these new business opportunities, coming from the M&O's perspective. But there is a big gap, I think, between what is needed to push into that space, and innovate, versus what the telcos have available to them in terms of resource.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and this is for connectivity. We didn't even open the topic for BSS, OSS, customer care. How are you going to handle the full digital experience? How are you going to utilize the AI to have fast response for everyone, or even have the hyper personalization in terms of plans or like time per day to send a push notification or something like that. This is even becoming more complex for the traditional operators, let's say.
And I think Hamish, you've made a very interesting point as well, in that the sort of operators need to provide the technology, because if you recall, when we went to MWC and we spoke with GSMA, one of the things that they've mentioned is some equipment manufacturers are working directly with GSMA to sort of establish new protocols for stuff like installing eSIMs, etc. And I feel that the winners could potentially be the operators which implement these protocols and additions developed with GSMA, so that they can provide something that their competitors can't. And this way they sort of stand out and gain a competitive advantage.
Totally. The thing that's difficult, I think, is that there is the mindset of the operators, I think, for a long time, and with all due respect, because I'm generalizing a little bit, there's a lot of operators out there that are super innovative in the way that they approach technology. But I think one of the challenges has been there has been a mindset around what the operator's speciality is, which has been monetizing the network. So creating tariff plans, understanding their customers, marketing and acquiring customers. But whereas what we're talking about, I think, is quite a deep understanding of product development, of technology. And so the mindset is kind of pointing this way towards, the customer and customer engagement, which is good, but what really it seems like the industry is looking for now is some real product innovation. So there's a mindset kind of shift that needs to happen, and a cultural shift that needs to happen about where the priorities are, Not easy to achieve, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that the banking industry has been first hit by this, because if you recall, when the sort of self-service mobile banks started appearing, such as Revolut, for example, that offered you a mobile application where you could go and manage all of your expenses, move the money. That has been, big change for a regular consumer. And I feel that, some of these, obviously, something that we at Mobilise provide as a part of our travel eSIM is a self-service application where you could see your usage data, etc. But I feel that more operators need to sort of get on this and identify what exactly their customers may be missing, or, for example, they have to go and pay a physical visit to the office of the operator shop, for example, to get something. So absolutely, I think that personalization and sort of compartmentalization of these offerings is definitely somewhere that these guys are going to move in the future.
Yeah. You know, I read this statistic, or I heard this statistic the other day. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I think it's around about right. Is that in the telco industry, a user will open their telco self-service app maybe once a month, but a banking app they'll open, I think it was 3 to 4 times a week, and it's, you know, the service is a lot more high priority. I think, you know, people want to see where they're spending money, they want to see, you know, what their account balance is. So the touch point in banking, I think that's for me. I've always traced what the banking industry has gone through in terms of its digital transformation. Let's coin it like that, and compared it to what the telco industry is going through as well. But I think fundamentally there's quite a different kind of level of priority. The nature of the service is a much higher priority for users, so the engagement, the opportunity to engage is a lot higher, I think. But that doesn't mean that telcos can't get there, I don't think. I mean, there's not that many industries that have such, you know, so many customers have a relationship with the telco, you know, like banking, telco, I mean, maybe utilities, you know, not that many products or services out there that so many consumers, you know, have a one-to-one relationship with. But the telcos have the ecosystem to be able to push other products and services down, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And also attracting customer via eSIM, for instance, that should be like your way for acquisition, but this is not the end of selling, and that's why you should have other verticals into your app, so you keep your user engaged, and also you can monetize any other services like we've mentioned, like whether it's streaming, travel, or fintech. And that's why we all think that Revolut are very successful in this matter. Like they launched their travel eSIM solution, it's working fine because they have a good customer base already.
I've heard it's been really successful. I don't know any specific numbers, but I've heard it's gone like that.
And even if we don't, or we're not very sure about the numbers, you can see the next move. Okay, now we're launching our MVNO, so this seems okay. Like it seems that this business or this new vertical is paying off.
Picking up. I mean, for me, like to summarize what we've talked about here, because I wanted to touch on another subject afterwards as well. But for me, it's like, you know, we have the telcos that are kind of maybe somewhat set in their ways, and maybe I think some of them, if not majority of them, will struggle to innovate in the way that they need to in order to be able to capture the way that the market is going and particularly what consumers want. But then you have this top layer, which is kind of the platforms and the agility and the technical innovation, which the MVNO, let's classify it as MVNO, but we could also call it embedded connectivity. But it's that part of the industry that seems to be the one that is innovating the most on top of the network, you know. And we've seen it with travel eSIM, although I feel like, you know, it's a relatively straightforward business model. It's not super technically innovative. Except for you know, the user experience that's been built around travel eSIM. But eSIM as a technology has been around for quite a long time. But I mean, that market has gone absolutely crazy over the last couple of years, hasn't it? You know,
keep rising every year. Thinking like this is like the climate, and it keep
rising. They're
more.
Saying that there's a lot more in it as well. But for me, that's kind of one use case that eSIM is unlocking. You know, and there's a whole bunch more. Like we talk a lot about try and buy. eSIM is unlocking that try and buy use case as well.
Try and buy and pluggable eSIM as well, so you don't miss the physical eSIM devices. So it's all shaping together, going to this direction.
But I think for me, where the next wave is coming from in terms of back to the building the telecom operator of tomorrow. I remembered the name of the podcast. I'm not looking at the whiteboard. But I think that operators are going to struggle. So I think the old analogy of bit pipes for operators is actually really starting to come true now. I think what the innovation that we've seen in the last couple of years is really proving that it is here now. There's been a lot of talk for many years that operators are going to become bit pipes. But I think it's here. And I think the operators aren't going to be able to evolve in the way that they need to, because they're just not built that way. They're not built to deliver those types of services into the market or platforms or products. And so the opportunity is these kind of, under the wholesale model, it's the MVNOs, it's the embedded connectivity providers, it's the travel players, it's the fintechs. And rather than it being, I think, a complete substitution of revenue between the operators and the MVNOs, I think there's going to be a lot of new revenue streams that open up, like roaming, for example.
Yes.
What other revenue streams do we think are going to pop up for service providers in, whether it be MVNOs or MNOs, like the new telecoms operators of the future? What kind of revenue streams do we think that they're going to be tapping into that are maybe new from traditional revenue streams?
I think I'll go back to something that I've mentioned. I feel like a lot of revenue is likely going to come from partnerships. So, for example, if an MNO is offering a data sort of subscription, and their subscribers will also get Netflix or Spotify with it, I believe that this is a good sort of opportunity for both companies to kind of explore and expand their user base. So absolutely, I think value-added services is definitely going to be a big one. It would entirely depend, though, on whether the MNOs select to push the products that the customers are actually looking for, because I think that this would sort of have the biggest impact on the popularity of their products and offerings.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I feel that for most people, because again, it's 10, 15 years ago, EE had 4G while no one else did. That kind of thing is no longer the case. I feel like everyone's network quality is pretty much the same. Coverage is very similar as well. So they got to find sort of alternative ways to bring people on board, because standard approach.
Well, this is the problem with the industry as well, isn't it? It's a bit like they've been selling the same stuff. It's like best network, best coverage, best price plan, value. Like those things have been squeezed for the last 15 years.
You need to change the message.
And there's the delta between 3G and 4G was meaningful. 4G to 5G has not been very meaningful at all. So that business model of evolving network and then charging more for it's kind of squeezed out.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's all about how good is your app, how engaging is your app, what kind of UX do you have?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because this will define, the best operator, not the network, as we mentioned, and also like how easy it is, like how integrated all these different services together. Am I using just one wallet for all of these services, or coins or points or whatever system, but I can juggle between the different services like streaming or even travel or fintech, or I can switch money to units and use it in data, and all of these kind of merging different industries and vertical together, which take us back to the super app strategy. I think this will shape the future of the telecom. Like, I think they need to operate as any tech company or a SaaS company. Like they think about monetization, they think about retention and churn from a different perspective, not only for giving you extra 20 minutes or extra 2 giga. It need to be more than this.
Yeah.
How is your KYC? How is your registration? How is your onboarding? How easy it is, how smart it is, how personalized for my need it is.
Yeah.
And the thing is, delivering that stuff is really hard to do well. Like anyone can kind of design and put the building blocks together, but actually getting the user experience right, the friction across any of those touch points right, the engagement, the personalization, the communications, notifications, whatever it might be, that whole user experience, to get that really good and done well, so that the customers feel engaged and want to come back. It's really, really hard to get right.
Yeah, and you cannot copy it as well. Like Europe is different than Latin America, is different than Africa.
There's cultural differences depending on the region. Totally.
So some operators need to figure out their way, and then if they manage, they will be the market leaders and everyone will follow them. Yeah. So I think this is like now it's a good time for operators who are really flexible and willing to have a bit of risk to lead the market. This might change how the telecom market looked like for the past 20 or 40 years. I think this is an opportunity for everyone, and as you mentioned, MVNOs are more flexible, so they might have the advantage, but still MNOs, they have their network, they have their legacy, so if they choose to put a new front-end layer and using their old back-end, this might give them advantage and flexibility, and they might also break prices.
Yeah. And let me ask you, before we wrap things up, data and AI, where do you think the opportunities are for telcos merging those two things together?
Yeah. Would
So-
you like to get it? Yeah, go
Sure,
ahead.
yeah. I've been
George's eyes went like this.
Yeah, of course.
at MWC last year and the year before last, I got a chance to go and sort of speak to people at that was ARM. They had a stand and they were discussing how exactly they may sort of embed AI into even radio access network infrastructure in order to kind of maximize its efficiency. And I haven't heard anything since about this initiative, but they kind of gathered a lot of people. There was a lot of banks were involved, big companies, and they were sort of looking for ways to not only integrate it as a glorified customer support agent, but to make it like
Exactly.
an essential part of their offering. And I feel that the optimization that may come from embedding it at lower levels, so again, stuff like radio networks, radio towers, I feel that this is gonna bring the biggest benefit because for most other things, again, it's the customer support agent. Pretty much everyone has them. They're comparatively easy to make. But the idea, I think, as with everything, as with any new thing that comes around, it's about finding where exactly it fits. And I feel that this is something that could be a perfect match.
Yes, and again, it's all about personalization because even when the AI firstly exposed to consumers, then you have ChatGPT and you have DeepSeek, for instance, and if you're a normal user or like a light user of the AI, you wouldn't differentiate between the two models. But if you're using it intensively with many use cases, then no, I prefer this model. And once the competition is up, so now it's very interesting for everyone to see an AI chatbot which is seen intelligent. But when the competition is up, okay, so we need to differentiate between the different chatbots. And now I'm judging you for a lot of things, and you have to be smart, you have to be intuitive, or otherwise I need to get back to the call center, traditional call center. And this is what also needs some investment in user behavior, and with all the data that the current telecom operators have, they can use these data, utilize it, feed it to their models, and have maybe the best AI agents in terms of customer care. Because at least from this perspective, legacy MNOs, they have more data than anyone.
Yes,
mountains and mountains
Yeah.
and mountains of data. And I feel like up until AI came around, it was a real challenge to figure out how to use that data efficiently. I think there was a lot of ways to use it, but really to tie all the data together to create a kind of coherent story that could be actionable or is actionable, that's been difficult to achieve up until kind of the introduction of AI in the last couple of years. But still, I think a long way to go. My view is, I think it feels like there's going to be a bunch of opportunities with AI and data combined together. But I feel like from a product development perspective, using AI to investigate the massive data sets that the MNOs have to help improve their product development cycles.
Yes, churn prediction as well.
Churn prediction, those types of things. Yeah, exactly. It's super interesting. One thing before we go is there's been a bunch of reports recently about NVIDIA in particular. There's other companies doing it too, but NVIDIA putting their GPUs or their AI compute into the radio network of telcos. It's really interesting. And NVIDIA invested like $1 billion, which is like pocket change for them, but still a massive investment into Nokia for just this purpose, to put their GPUs into NVIDIA's base stations, one, to be able to manage the base station workflows and processes, so radio and antennas, etc., but then also to be able to have a edge compute node that is close to the user that can be used to be able to manage AI workflows. Super interesting. And like the model for the telcos there, and what I've read anyway, is that they're basically becoming kind of infrastructure hosts for the AI models. And the reason why NVIDIA invested is because they see an opportunity there. But it's probably more of an exploratory thing at the moment, because $1 billion is, like an R&D side project for them. But interesting. Yeah, very interesting indeed.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us on the Mobilise Podcast. It was Hamish White and Mo Wahid today with us, talking about the MNOs of the future. Thank you very much. Follow us.
And subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, and follow our website as well for all the latest news.
See you at the next one.